This is the Bear Country Outdoors Barely a Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Joyce, and with me is James Forsland and Chris Cantrell. Thanks for joining. Welcome back. It is the last episode of this season. We are wrapping up another fun podcast season here today, and I'm just glad to be part of it, guys. Mm-hmm. It's been a fun time.
Happy to be here, Doug.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
The last podcast of 2024.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we'll be on to 2025 here.
Yep. So tonight we're going to finish up our stories that we were telling last time about the trip to Montana that these guys went on. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to jump into some, what'd you do? You had some questions or some topics?
We had some talk. We were going to talk about this upcoming season in the podcast and some of the topics that we're going to cover.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of the topics will be surprises because hopefully we'll draw some sweet tags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about putting in for tags because we're coming into that season now where people are thinking about putting in for Montana. We're going to have due dates for Wyoming soon.
Yeah.
Alaska's already come and gone for some of it.
Yeah. Same with Idaho.
Idaho as well, which we struck out on getting tags so far. We still have a chance through some of the controlled hunt draws, so we'll see if maybe one of us gets lucky on that. But besides that, yeah, we could start talking about some of the hunts that we're going to go on for the next season as well.
We had a pretty banner year though across the board.
Really good year.
Like, I mean, for instance, I don't know if you noticed a table in front of us.
Mm-hmm. It's nice and furry.
It's a two-tone.
If you're watching on YouTube,
it's two colors.
There's a ball of fur on the table.
The whole table is fur.
Doug, what's on the table?
This right here would be the chocolate bear that I shot when we were muzzleloader hunting for elk, and this bear almost ate us. Shot it at 5 yards with my revolver.
Yep.
And then the black one is my other bear from the early season that I was actually also elk hunting on, and then was deer hunting, and just so happened there's a bear.
Yep.
Doug.
Both really good coats on them too.
Beautiful coats.
So I was gifted 2 bears this year when I really wasn't even hunting for them.
That's the way it happens sometimes. You just got to capitalize on it.
You just got to take what you get, and
good for you,
I'm
Doug.
very thankful.
Yeah.
And I finally got my meat back from the butcher, and it's some really good stuff.
Oh yeah, Doug got what did you get?
I got pepperoni, Polish sausage. I got some summer sausage, and then I got some breakfast sausage and some spicy Italian sausage.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the works.
So I got everything.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you put me in charge of dropping off your meat.
I want everything.
I said Doug wants a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's going to be a while. I'm like, well, that's okay.
The wait was worth it.
Yeah, when you shoot 2 bears, dude, like, you know.
I brought it. Doug gave me this which, by the way, I have your cooler. He gave me this big cooler. It was completely full of meat, frozen in bags. And I'm like, holy crap, Doug, this is a lot of meat. It's going to be an expensive process bill.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it turned out good.
It wasn't too bad. Got lots of fat from the two of them.
Yep. We still got to do some rendering.
Some of that, yeah.
I'm excited to do some stuff because I got a giant block of beeswax from my bee guy where I get all my honey from, and it's like legit, like the good. It's like good. It's got like probably dead bees in it still. It's it's that good stuff, you know. And I'm like, Doug's got a bunch of bear fat.
Yeah,
we're gonna make some stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we could do like candles. I'd like to try making some more candles.
I want some more stuff from my boots.
Yeah, some.
We're talking about our squeaky
Jeremiah
boots.
oil.
Some Jeremiah oil. Yeah.
Jeremiah oil.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched that video, we made a video on how to make that.
Yeah.
But we're gonna make some more of that. Maybe some chapsticks.
We might remake that one because it did get a little confusing when we were doing the video. Jim got a little lost on our quantities, and we just said, screw it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It turned out good, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was right on the money. I mean, we decided it could have used a little bit more color, but
yeah, which I
overall,
got.
I think it was
Your
pretty
mom
good.
gave me a big thing of charcoal powder, so we can make some different colors, too. We can make black for,
that'd be
you know,
cool.
for black shoes.
Yeah.
We got some brown stuff, too. We could do more dark brown.
Maybe some reds for my yipstick.
Oh, yeah. There you go. So Chris can put on his lipstick.
My yipstick from Home Depot.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, we're looking forward to a lot of the good stuff that we get from doing all this hunting stuff.
Yeah, and we'll have more off-season videos that we're going to probably put out here soon. We got the gun
Yeah,
build
we got a
video
gun
almost
build
done.
video that's coming up that we're working on getting put out. So that's coming up. We're going to the gun range here shortly.
Yeah, we just got to preview that. Doug's been working on it for a while. Although I hate watching myself on the TV, I think it's going to be pretty good. Mm-hmm. Pretty excited about it.
No, it looks really good. And I think if you're interested in gun building, this is definitely like up your alley. It's very in-depth.
The guns turned out so good.
Oh, dude.
Dude, it's so good.
We'll talk about a little bit more about those guns and their performance.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be telling these stories about Montana.
Yeah, a quick 847-yard shot.
I can't wait to go shoot him some more.
Yeah.
Barely even shot the damn
Yeah,
things.
we're gonna shoot again a couple days.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah. So
Looking forward to that.
I shot the crap out of mine.
Yeah.
yeah, Chris shot his a lot.
Yeah.
Compared to all of us.
I don't even think I haven't even I've barely put over a box through mine.
I put, I think, 50 rounds through it when I first started shooting it. I was just trying to break it in, but also I was just shooting,
Yeah.
trying to get everything dialed. But man, it shoots really good, at least at 200 and and above. But I'm excited to put it to the use and try some 800,000-yard shots.
Dude, it's so much fun.
Too bad we don't have a longer range around
I know.
here.
I know.
If we could just get even a 500-yard range here.
My dad was talking about in the Squally range. He wishes he still had membership there. But that's like a 2-hour drive.
Anyone listening in Western Washington, you got a big chunk of dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let us know.
hit us up.
1,000 yards.
Yeah,
Yep.
that'd be sweet. That would be. Yeah, because I had lots of opportunities. I shot.
I mean, what good is it if you got this gun that can shoot that far, but
Yeah.
you just don't shoot it that far?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when I was in Montana, I could shoot as far as
you
the
want.
bullet would go.
Yeah,
right. I shot my elk at 847, and that was a lot of work to get that close.
Yeah.
I could have shot it at 3 miles. Pretty easy. I was like, oh, look, there's a bull out there.
Yeah.
How far is it? Oh, my rangefinder won't work. It's farther than I think.
Yep, it's pretty far then.
It's pretty far. Yeah.
I
You
was
have to
hitting
put the
some
Empire
ranges.
State Building underneath that bad boy.
When I showed up there, I think one of the mornings, me and Chris and Matt were out riding around in Matt's side by side, which is super nice, by the way.
Yeah.
It's nice and heated and everything.
Oh, dude, it's so
Yeah.
nice. It was so much better than mine. So much better than mine.
Polaris, we need a sponsor.
I can't remember where we stopped, but we stopped at somewhere up on this lookout, and we're glassing, and we saw those deer way, way off. And I'm like, oh, there's a deer over there. And then we're like, oh, there's a buck. And I remember I tried to range it with my rangefinder, and it's like zeroed out. And I'm like, dude, I think you're like, dude, that's like 2 miles away. I'm like, ugh. But you could see stuff.
Yeah, a long ways away.
For as far as you can possibly see.
Yeah.
You can see it because everything's so open there.
Yeah.
And there's pockets where there's dips and stuff like that, but most of it's just pretty open.
Yeah. Miles.
I mean, it doesn't even compare to here at all. Like you could never see that far here. Even in most of eastern Washington, you're not seeing, 2 miles across.
No, unless you're on the plateau.
Right.
Somewhere.
Like there's some places like that, but
And even then, that's a stretch.
Most of the places we were at, if we were near the valley, it was 8 to 10 miles easy, and some spots are
visibility.
like 15 to 20
Yeah.
visibility. Yeah.
And so it's a big deal there. That, as I found out, when you wake up in the morning, you're like, they kept talking about, oh, it's kind of socked in, and I'm like, and I've never really looked around and be like, oh, it's socked in, but they're like, oh, it's socked in. We're not going to be able to see that great because you can see so far, and a lot of times you're looking at stuff that's a mile, 2 miles off. And even a little bit of fog or cloud cover pretty much destroys your chance of seeing animals on a lot of those hillsides. So I started to learn, okay, this is a little different style hunting than I'm used to.
Yeah.
I've never hunted that big a country, where it's all completely wide open everywhere you go.
Right.
And it's kind of weird for me. I'm like, wait, there's elk here. This is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, where do these elk come from? Where do they go? Where do they come from?
Yeah.
They just materialize.
They do.
There.
And that's the crazy part about it is they do. They just materialize out of these valleys. Like you'll be looking over here and you're like, oh, there's nothing there, nothing there, nothing there, and all of a sudden you look down and you're like, boom, there's a herd of 50 elk there, and you're like, where did those elk come from?
Right.
But they they use the landscape and the ways that the hills roll and everything to hide and conceal themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like they know
Yeah.
how to stay out of sight,
Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird.
Super frustrating.
Yeah, because you look and you're like, oh man, if there was anything out here, we'd be able to see it.
No problem.
If there's anything out here, we'd definitely be able to see it. And you look and you're like, yep, nothing there. And then a little bit later, you're like, oh, there's some elk. Where did those elk come from? I don't know.
Right.
But they pop out of these little drainages, and there they are.
And I'm sure it makes it hard to sneak up on stuff when it's that big.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
It's and we'll
That's
get
why you need them 1 mile guns, right?
Yeah.
So when I get to Montana, I'm like, I have this idea of I'm going to just roll around. We're going to see elk way off. We're just going to go and we'll just drive up to them and then I'll hike in, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, no big deal. That's what I think in my head. And so it kind of works out that way. Like when we rolled around, I don't know how long did I hunt for before we ran into the first herd of elk?
Dude, he was so lucky. We saw elk the first day, the second day, like the third day, and usually
We saw
That's
elk
because
the first day.
He was there.
yeah. Because I'm like, hey man,
He's like a lucky bunnyfoot.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I told him, well, I go to Idaho to meet him, and there's like, I'm there for 3 seconds, and he's like, oh, do you want to shoot that buck? And I'm like, and then there was just like deer everywhere, like for a day, and then I just shoot one, and then we leave, and I'm like, oh, I guess I deer hunted for a day in Idaho. That was awesome,
Yeah.
And I shot a nice buck.
Yeah.
And then as we're going, and I'm like, hey man, like, this is a little different kind of style of hunting, and you're not going to see the animals, and you just got to, if you don't see something for like 5 days, you just got to, dude, we're going to cover like, realistically, like some days we'll cover 100 and some odd miles on a side-by-side,
No, I could see that for sure.
in the square mile, game, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of square miles. And you can hunt the whole thing because what's not public is block management,
Mm-hmm.
And there's huge, like the Matador Ranch is 350,000 acres or whatever it is. And like, you can hunt most of that ranch and like, you go past the next one and then it's this ranch and it's block management. But so I'm just trying to like, I don't like to overpromise and underdeliver. And so I'm like, you're probably not going to see, we're there. And he's like, dude, there's elk. There's elk. There's elk right there. Oh, there's deer there. There's elk. There's more elk. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, there's just elk everywhere, dude. It was. It was crazy.
Well, I think the first day, within the first morning,
Yeah.
we ran into that big herd that we could have actually probably made something happen with those, but we just couldn't find them. It was like one of those things where they'd gone down into a ravine somewhere, and we saw their tracks coming in. And we were like, oh, where did they go? And we're like, oh, maybe they were going down. Maybe they're going up. I don't know. And then they ended up somehow snaking through and then popping up. We went down below, and then they popped up on the top. And Matt spotted them as they were going up and over.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh. And then we had to zoom back around, try to get over, and they were already gone into some crap, And we thought about, me and Chris both thought about, like, we're going to go drop in on these elk and catch them in the timber. And we made it like, what, maybe 100 yards, post holing up to our knees. And we're like, and then it went like this straight down
Just
into a bunch of
straight down.
deadfall. And we're like, nope, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So we
Good
turned
luck getting
around.
out.
Yeah.
Because there was no way to be quiet.
Yeah.
Like the wind wasn't great.
Yeah.
And we were just like, this isn't, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, sometimes you got to just make a judgment call.
And that was it was the first day I was there. And Chris had already, he had tagged out on a nice bull early. He'd already shot a nice buck in Idaho. So all he has left in his hand is a deer tag, which he's going to try to shoot a nice buck probably. At this point, it's like halfway through your hunt, or maybe a little bit more than halfway.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was about halfway. 'cause
Yeah.
I was there for 27 days.
And we hadn't even had a chance to deer hunt yet.
Yeah.
Because Chris told me there's no deer there. He said that there's a
that's-
few deer running around, but they're usually like a couple little, dinky
Like
whitetails.
30-pound nose.
and then
and then James shows up.
and then James shows up.
So
I've been telling you, it's been like this for years, Chris.
Dude.
hold on.
It is
It's
pu-
too
I
much.
got-
To be
I got
fair,
a couple stories that have to do the same thing.
Let me tell you about this guy,
Let me
Doug.
tell you about this guy.
so we get through the first day, and then I think it was that night that huge storm rolled in, where it just pounded us.
Yeah.
All night.
Yeah.
And it was just like whipping winds and like blizzard conditions, like completely whited out. Like you couldn't see, 10 yards in front of you. And me and Chris tried to go out that morning and it was just hammered. Like we couldn't even see, and I'm going like this on the windshield, and we're trying to go and we can't see 10 yards. And we're both realized this is a huge waste of our time. So we go back, we have a nice breakfast. I think I go out, like, I'm going to go drive around in my truck a little bit and see. And I realized that's still a joke, but at least it was bearable in your truck.
Sounds like Chris needed to just open the bottle sooner.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty much, he's like, this is a day where we sit and watch Letterkenny and drink whiskey.
Yeah, right.
But I think
nothing wrong with that, especially if you've been beating the bush for how long you guys were out there.
Chris had already been beating up the mountain for weeks.
A couple of weeks,
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think we've probably all seen the show, like where the guys are like up on like sheep hunting or goat hunting, and they're like, "Oh, we're like in Alaska," and they're like, "Oh, we're fogged in" or something like that, and they just stay in their tent. And when I was younger, when I had James's testosterone, I was like, I would just get out and I'd go find a sheep or just go, and then once you get in it, and like James was saying, like you go out, you can see 10 feet.
Yeah.
And you're hunting hundreds of thousands of square miles of dirt. Like, maybe this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go back and watch Letterkenny.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Well, and like, me, like I don't want to give up on anything.
Right.
And I'm like, well, it could still happen. Like
Right.
I think I found a white-tailed doe that day and it was just like ran across the road or something. And I was like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And so I think we spent a little bit of the day like just hanging out, like getting stuff ready for the evening hunt. And then it finally broke and it was like, I think the sun came out or something. It was like, it was nice out. And we decided to go out and do our little hunt. And so we go out and was it that? Yeah, it was that night. And me and Chris go out and Chris is like, I got a spot where I've seen a lot of elk. And so we go out, we get up to this lookout and it's like towards dark and we spot a herd of elk. And I'm like, man, this is like, there's elk all over here. Like, what is Chris talking about?
Chris is like, oh, this is working out great.
Right.
And I think they're like 1,200 yards or something like that, little too far. And Chris is like, we could try to make a move, maybe not. I don't know. Like, what do you say? And I'm like, dude, let's just go. Because we got maybe 40 minutes till dark.
Yeah.
And we started going and we're just like, we're going through snowdrifts up to our hips almost.
Dude, it was so deep.
And it was like,
it was so deep.
we're exhausted. We made it like 300 yards. And then
it sucks.
We got to where we might have been able to shoot from like 800-ish and we couldn't pick up the elk again.
Yeah.
And it was like they had dropped down a little further down the hill.
We lost some elevation.
We lost a little bit of elevation and then it was like it was getting dark, so it was like almost to that point where we couldn't see. And I think we picked up maybe one cow at some point. It was almost dark, and we're just like
edge of the timber, super long shot.
Yeah, we're just like, it's not going to happen tonight. So we bailed out, and it was kind of a hell walk getting back out of there too.
Yeah, because
crappy.
It was like we were probably only a half mile.
Yeah,
but like a half mile of waist deep snow.
Then we got stuck for a while.
And then then the side by side got stuck.
Because there's snow drifts. It's not necessarily the deep snow that kills you. It's the snow drifts when they blow in because it's so cold. The snow's so light, so everything just moves.
Yeah.
And then wherever there's like a low spot or like a bunch of brush or something, it builds up in these giant drifts, and then all of a sudden you can't get through it. So you're in the side by side, and you're just like,
get out. I get out with the shovel. James is like perfectly built to deadlift my side by side, and I'm not
height wise,
dude. It was I'd never seen a guy. I don't know how much my side by side weighs, 1,400 pounds, something like that. Dude, he picked that thing up. I bet you 1,000 times on that trip.
No, not 1,000.
Dude, I got stuck.
We got a lot of times though.
I got stuck a lot. I mean, because I got it's not a high.
It became part of our daily activity.
I got stuck every day, multiple times every day. And so I would dig out, and then I'd get in, and I'd be like, okay, James, pick the side-by-side up.
Yeah. We had a system down.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like you just pick it up and then go. Like I'd have to pick it up and then like push it and kind of walk with it for a second and then do it again until he got out and then back out.
And then go.
Yeah. So I'd be like, dude, I was sore as shit after that day of hunting because it wasn't from hiking or working. It was from deadlifting that side by side.
Yeah.
But I felt pretty strong when I got back home. So that night shot, and then the next day comes, and me and Chris go out, and I think we beat it up for a while. Didn't we? We went out and beat it up.
Yeah.
And then we had like more problems getting stuck because we tried to go back to that herd of elk.
Yeah.
Then it got really bad because the
dude.
snow drifts had made like everything had come in even more, and we were getting stuck on like the main road, like over and over again. And Chris got deeper than we should have been on those snow drifts because he was just rallying that thing, and he's just like, "Wah!" And it's like maxed out, pushing snow. And it's just like we go like maybe 5 miles like that.
Yeah.
And then we get stuck. And then on the way out, we're like, how did we even get in this far? Because we couldn't get that momentum again.
Oh, dude.
So we kept getting stuck over and over. And Chris is getting pissed like, damn it. Like, what are we doing?
I was so bad at myself.
I know. He's like, I know better than this. And I'm like, it's okay. We'll get out. So we spent like half the day, actually more than half the day, trying to just get out of where the predicament that we put ourselves in earlier, because we were, I don't know, we only made it like maybe 10 miles, but we were just so screwed, and we kept getting stuck over and over. So then we get through, and I don't even think we went back for lunch or nothing. We just went, it was like getting towards the evening at that point.
Right.
And we were coming back after a little. We're like, well, we got like the evening shot, let's just go down this one little road and then turn around and come back, and we'll go back to camp. And we're on our way back, and I think we spotted a deer, right off up on the hillside, like kind of almost on the silhouette. I'm like, oh, there's a deer, stop. So we stop, and I think I just put glass on it. It was like, there's a buck. And I didn't even say anything really to Chris. I just like turned and grabbed my rifle. And Chris knows
as usual.
Oh yeah, Chris
James
knows
sees
what's
a buck.
going on.
He doesn't say anything. He just grabs his gun. He didn't say there's a buck. I guarantee it. He said that in his mind. He thought he said it out loud.
I think I did. I don't know. But anyways, Chris is he's glassing out the side by side, and I'm like, I had glassed it too, and I think we both probably looked at it around the same time. I was like, that's a buck, and he's like. And then he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, oh, good buck, or something like that. And I was like, and I just grabbed the gun and started to get out. And I get down, and I'm laying prone, like in the snow. And now it's deep snow. Like I'm up to my neck.
Dude, it's super deep. Yeah.
And I got my bipod completely out. And I'm just like laying there. And Chris is like, I think he ranged it for me or something.
Yeah,
You're like
350, 360, something.
Yeah,
like that.
it was like 353 or I want to say it was like 353.
It was a long poke.
And he's like 353 or something. I'm like, okay. And I throw up, and I'm like getting ready to shoot. And for some reason, like I don't ever do this anymore. But this is like I go back to my teenage years, and I'm like, take my breath. I'm like, okay, good to go. And I'm like, and I feel rock solid, just rock solid. And I pull the trigger. My gun goes off. I don't have a shell in it. And I'm like, I haven't done that for almost 20 years. And I'm like,
I heard it too. You
oh yeah.
Click, and I'm like,
I'm waiting for Chris to say something.
Start
I'm
laughing.
Like, he didn't break anything.
No, I heard it, and I'm just like, keep it inside. You're like, rack around, this is fine. And I'm watching this buck. I'm like, it's a good buck. You could tell. Like, I'm like, oh, it's a good buck, dude. And because like I said, there's not big deer around there. There's never like the biggest. That's the biggest deer that I've ever seen there. Thiel's son shot one bigger than that. Not much bigger though than that.
Yeah, and Chris has told me, yeah, like you might see like a basket buck, and I was like thinking, yeah, I'll shoot a basket buck. Like, why not?
Yeah.
I knew that this buck was decent because I put glass on it. I was like, that it's bigger than a basket buck. Like it's a good buck.
Yeah.
It's as good as the buck I shot in Idaho or better, is what I thought. And so I was like, okay, so I rack around, and now the buck has turned completely away from me, just ass facing me. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there, and I'm completely prone, and I'm ready to shoot. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And it was probably not that long. But it felt like a long time.
It felt like a long time.
Because finally, like, I'm just like, and I thought a couple times, like, I can squeeze one in there. Like, if he turns just a little bit,
right.
I'll just squeeze it in there. And I'm like,
shot.
And then I'm like, no, James, it's 300 plus yards. Like, wait till he's like at least hard, like either hard broadside or like slightly quartering. So I think he was like maybe slightly quartering.
He was barely, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking I was going to shoot him in the ear if it was me, but
Yeah, Chris is like, I just headshot it from there. He's like 350. And I'm just like, okay, this is the longest shot of my life. And so I get on him and I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm not even going to dial anything. I'm just going to hold a little bit high, you know, because at 350, I'm going to maybe have 10 inches of bullet drop at the most.
Yeah.
So I put it just, you know, like high shoulder kind of, but back a little bit. And then I just touch it off and you could hear it. Like when it hit, it was like thump. Yeah. And Chris is like, he's dead. And I think he ran maybe 20, 30 yards.
Yeah, if that,
yeah, just like downhill, like that whitetail instinct. His lungs were gone. And he just piled up. I'm like, yes.
Did you see him pile up?
Yeah, we watched him pile up.
Yeah. I was watching through my binos.
Yeah.
And
that's such a good feeling.
Dude, as soon as he touched off.
Because you know how whitetails are. Like, as soon as they take off and they disappear, you're like, oh, no.
Yeah. No, luckily it's open so we can see, you know.
Yeah. And the report, like the sound of the report when the bullet hits, I'm like, that's a dead deer.
Well, and he'd come downhill too. So like he was running downhill, but he was kind of doing like that buckle, you know, like where he's running, but he doesn't have it all.
Yeah.
I'm shooting those 210 grain burger bullets out of a 300 Ultra Mag. Yeah. I mean, even if I hit it in the leg, dude, that thing
burger me.
Yeah. He's done, dude.
Yeah.
He's done. So, and I'm like, yeah. And Chris is like, all right, cool, man. So it wasn't until I walked up on this buck that I realized, because Chris is like, yeah, just go up there, drag it down, and then I'll meet you over there on the road. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no big deal.
Because the whitetail aren't that, I mean, they're whitetail, right?
They're whitetails, right? And
they're
it's
not
downhill.
Alberta whitetail.
It's downhill, and it's not super far. I mean, 300 yards to the road. And so I'm like, okay. So I go and I hike up there, and I get up to this buck, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, this is a huge buck. Like, very big. Like, the antler-wise, big, but its antlers didn't look as big because the body was so big.
Huge.
Dude, it was a 300-pound deer, dude.
Easily. Like, it was like, holy crap.
It was huge.
The biggest bodied whitetail I've ever shot. The biggest bodied whitetail I've ever seen shot. Like, when I walked up on it, I was like, this is a mule deer, like, body-wise.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, I have to drag this now. And because I have no cell phone service. Chris has no idea what's going on. The sun's starting to go down.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess, okay, just time to buckle up, James, and start dragging this deer. So it took me a while. And Chris, what took you so long? I'm like, look at this thing. Get down here and help me. Because I drug it to like the bottom and there was a little up to the road.
Yeah.
And it was like maybe 10 yards up like this. And I'm like, Chris, you need to come down here and help me. I'm gassed. He's like, what? It's just a whitetail. I'm like, dude, come here and look at this. And he's like, holy crap. How did you even do this
I
to
didn't
this
say
point?
holy crap. I'll tell you. I looked to the side. I was like, wow.
That's a big buck.
Dude, it was huge.
It was so big bodied. But anyways, it was super cool because I'm like, and Chris is like, this is the biggest buck we've ever shot here in this area. I'm like,
of course it's him.
By a lot.
Yeah.
he's like, how did we never even seen a buck like this here?
Never ever, dude. Never ever.
And I'm just like, I don't know. It's pretty sweet. I was
Dude.
so jacked though. And I was planning on hunting mule deer because, you know, I never have a good mule deer tag in my pocket.
Yeah.
Or if I do, it's like, you know, I just don't have the time. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to hunt. We had a plan that we were all going to take out, and then we were going to go hunt mule deer. Well, when that opportunity arose, I was just like, I'm going to shoot this buck.
Yeah, right?
I mean, you have to. It's
Yeah.
such a nice buck. And so, yeah, it was super cool. And then we get back, and the guys are like, holy crap, this thing is huge. So we got it, you know, hole in the back of his side-by-side.
Just frozen like
Oh,
a
yeah, and it
popsicle.
was so cold. It was like
Dude.
0 degrees or -10 or something that
Yeah.
night. So I'm like, I'm not even skinning this thing. I'm just going to leave it because I was just toasted.
Yeah.
I was tired. And so I just like left it in the back and just like, you know, like frozen like that. And so, but it made it such a cool experience, like having having Chris sitting there watching it like a video, like he's just sitting over my shoulder watching it, and then have it just work out like perfectly, no problem, like no weird tracking, no nothing. Perfect shot. It was like it was meant to be.
Chris isn't over your shoulder yelling at you to shoot it.
I could hear his voice in the back of the head when I pulled that trigger going. And I knew, I'm like, don't even say, I think I said like, don't say anything or something.
When I heard the click, I'm just like,
I'm like, amateur hour over here.
I'm not saying nothing.
Got a little taste.
Yeah. I hadn't done that for a long time, but
what seriously
happens to the best of us.
I've seen a lot of deer killed, dude. I mean, hundreds of deer. I've seen, I've shot a lot of deer myself, and I've guided a lot of guys, and I've been on a lot of hunts where guys shot deer, and I think that's probably, like, body-wise and antler-wise, the biggest whitetail I've ever seen killed. Mm-hmm. It was huge. That life-size deer behind you, we weighed that on the hoof. It was exactly 300 pounds. And that was at Travis's cabin in Dryden, and I think James's deer was every bit as big as that, if not bigger. Like it was huge.
Yeah, it was a big old mountain Montana whitetail.
Yeah,
I mean, crazy big.
It was so big, and that's why, like, I was like, oh, it's good. I was like, oh, dude, it was not like it's a good buck. I was like, oh, dude, that's a good buck, But I didn't. Yeah, when I looked over the edge of the bank, I was like, holy shit.
You're like, where's the buck you shot?
I'm like, dude.
Like,
where'd you find this?
Yeah, what did you do? I didn't hear that other shot.
Yeah.
What did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. It was like one of those moments where you have a high grade when you walk up to it instead of, being like, where's my buck? I was like, is this the buck I shot? Like, it's a dead buck where that one fell.
The upgrade instead of the downgrade.
Yeah.
Like every bear I've ever shot.
Yeah, like every bear I've ever shot.
This is not the bear I shot. Where's the big bear I shot?
Where's the big one? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
So then,
the pleasures of being a giant person.
But the best thing about this hunt is it was the next morning. I think we went out, and we weren't even like maybe 5 minutes out of the camp, and we I see, like, because we were all going together, and Chris and your buddy Ed were riding together, and me and Matt were in his side by side behind, and we were all going to just go out because there was such deep snow. Like, we were just going to take 2 side by sides. We were going to go all over, and that way, if someone got stuck, that there would be someone else. And we see the brakes tap, and I see, like, I'm like, okay, there's something going on. Where is it? And I see this buck like dipping up over the hill, and I'm like, and I see him stop, and I'm like, oh, someone's getting out and shooting that buck. And I'm like, is it gonna be Chris or is it gonna be Ed? And him and Chris, or Ed and Chris, go out, and they're like, we're gonna get out and shoot that buck. And I'm like, yep, I knew it. So I hope we go past, and we just like sit there and we're watching. Me and Matt, we're like, we go past where we can like see the hillside. We didn't want to blow it for them, and so then they go up and they hike up, and I'll let you tell that story.
Yeah, it was a buck and a doe, and a couple of days prior, I had seen a couple guys in the middle of the road. I drove same exact spot. I'd driven by, and I'm like, what kind of dickhead leaves his truck parked in the middle of? I mean, we're 60 miles off of the paved road, and he just parks his truck, and I'm like, I drive by, and there's no one in the truck. I'm like, oh, they got it. They saw something. So I look up opposite because I'm thinking, where up Elk Mountain. I'm like, oh, they must be over there, right? So I look, nothing. That's weird. And I keep driving, and I stop down the road at the place we call the phone booth where we get phone service, right? And I look back, and then I see the orange vest, and I'm like, what are they doing up there in the rocks? And I pull up my glasses, and I see they got a deer, and I couldn't tell what how big it was or whatever, but I'm like, I've never really seen a deer shot up there, right? And so that's where those deer ran across up in those rocks. So Ed and I climb up there, and he's got his. I'm trying to know what gun.
It's a 300 Win Mag, isn't it?
Or no, it was I think it was a 33 Nosler that I built him.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So I built him a gun, and because of 2 years prior, he had shot at a deer, and his turrets were off. So I think he's got the 7-42 on there by 56. Big, huge loophole scope VX6. Before the only one they didn't bring into the HD line. Not that I'm bitter about that, but anyways. So he gets set up, and he's like, so we climb up there, and we get up towards those rocks, and I'm looking, and I'm like, man, where did those deer go? They disappeared.
Yeah.
Absolutely disappeared.
Oh, they 100% disappeared.
And I'm
Me and Matt
looking.
were looking up from a different direction where we could see even more.
Yeah.
And we didn't see the deer at all. And I was like, I don't know where those deer went.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I tell Ed, I was like, hey, just sit right. We see everything from here. Just hang out, get ready. And I'm sitting there, and I got my glasses, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and just nothing. And I'm like, what the hell? And like, I can see, like, it's a pretty clear day. There were the BX4 Leupold rangefinders we got, right, and the glass is super clear. Like I could, I'm picking out like edges of leaves and like stuff at hundreds and hundreds of yards. I'm like, I can see everything. There's no reason I can't find this deer. And I'm getting irritated because I'm like, I know he came this way.
And we know he didn't squirt out the top.
Yeah.
Because we would have seen him skyline.
Yeah. So I start doing I'm gridding up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And I get it towards the top, and you can't really tell, but there's just the tiniest little saddle up top.
Yeah.
And you can't really tell because there's rocks and trees, and they all look kind of like homogeneous, blended together. And I see the freaking tips of his antlers, and that's all I saw. Was just moving through, and I was like, "You son of a bitch!" And I got him, and he's like, "Where?" And I'm like, "Don't talk to me. I'm looking." and I'm following him, and finally I see some ears, and then I see his head. I was like, "Okay, he's moving right to left. He's on the top of the ridge. There's a little saddle." But then he would disappear, and then you could see his antlers, and like so he's moving through, and I go, "He's moving to the left." He's like he's like a 350 or something. And then he kept going, and then he kept moving farther away and farther away and farther away. And Ed can shoot, and his gun can shoot. Obviously, his gun shoots well. But Ed's a workaholic. Ed works 80, 90, 100 hours a week. Like, that's all he does. Like, he doesn't ever go to the range. He doesn't have time for any of this stuff. So I'm like, okay, Ed, like, it's going to be a long shot. You okay with that? He's like, yeah, dude, I'm good. I'm like, all right. And so
just tell me what to do.
Yeah. So he set up on a rock, like a big rock. And I'm like, hey, man, why don't we move? Let's move you back over to this other rock. So it's like a little bit better angle and a little bit more support on his body because he's laying prone, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, just move over here. And as James knows, like I'm trying to like gently coach him, like, hey, this is what you should be doing. And he's listens to everything I say, gets set up. And I was like, okay, he's gonna come out of those trees end. Mm-hmm. And he's gonna come out in the open. There's nowhere for him to go. There's just a giant wide open bowl. You will see him.
Yeah.
And so he comes out and he keeps going. He keeps going. I go, and I'm like, hey, take your time. And I can hear Ed. I'm like, it's okay, man. Calm down. Catch your breath. I go, he's not going anywhere. He's in like a 600-700 yard wide bowl. And he's like kind of trotting, like not going fast.
Yeah, he's
not running. He's not running.
He's like just kind of like he's moving. He's
moving. And I go, just take your time, catch your breath, dude. Like, close your eyes, rest your head on the gun. I'll tell you, just you get set, and when you're ready, I'll tell you where he's at. And so he does, gets his breath. I can hear him. Everything calms down. He gets on the gun. I tell him the yard. He dials his dope. He knows exactly how far. I don't even remember how far. It was a long shot.
It was long. Yeah.
It was a long shot. I don't know. It was like
me and Matt were looking at where the deer was.
Yeah.
And I was looking at where you guys were. I'm like, that's a pretty good poke.
I think it was like 550 something like that.
Yeah, it had to have been at least
560 something like that.
Well over 4.
So he gets set up, and I'm calling range for him, and I'm like, "You good?" He's like, "I'm good." And I'm like, "All right, whenever you're ready, dude, I got you." And so I hear his safety, and I'm just like, "Yeah, it's go time." Like every like fiber in my body just like tenses up a little bit. Like I feel like my hair stand on end as soon as that safety clicked off, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's about to happen," and because the buck stops, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of looks to the left and he looks to the right and he starts to look to the left again, and Ed touches off and just freaking hammers this deer. Not a single step, dude.
No.
I mean, just dropped and
just
bounced.
Tea kettles?
Dude. So he hit perfect broadside, hits it, and the deer literally, dude, he's shooting a 265 grain bullet or something at that 338, and just, even at like 550, hits a steer and just like instant lights out.
Pancaked it.
Yeah, just turn the switch off and
gone.
Yeah, and
because that's what happened when I was watching it the whole time, watching it walk across the hillside. And then I put down my binoculars for a second because Matt asked me something, and he's like, and I was like, I turned and said, and I hear the, and I looked back up, and the deer was completely gone. And I'm like, well, he must have dropped it because that deer would be running across the hillside.
Dude, I was losing my mind. I'm like, dude, he's like, what happened? I'm like, you dropped him. You dropped him. And I was just super jacked. And I'm like, dude, he's like, I was like, you see that little tiny spot in the snow? I was like, that's him, dude. He's like, literally, he's buried in the snow.
Yeah.
And we went up and like, he literally, he fell like face down in the snow. Didn't move a bit. He was
Not
instantly
even a
dead.
step. Yeah.
Yeah. It was so rad.
And it was a nice little 4-point whitetail.
Dude, it was a great buck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of busted on one side.
Yeah, the broken side. Yeah.
It was super. Ed was pleased as pie. I was excited.
Whitetail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another whitetail.
Yeah.
So it was like maybe like from basically just after first light in the morning from the time that last light I shot, it wasn't that long,
Yeah.
Not even very far from where I shot my buck. And it was just like boom, boom, the rut, dude. It just turned on. There was a hot doe around there somewhere, or maybe multiple hot does, and those bucks were just cruising.
Dude, it was so cool.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so that happens, and we go back, and they're like, yeah, we're just going to hike up there and drag it back, and blah, blah, blah. And I think you guys drug it back down, and then we went and met up with them. We're like, oh, cool, you got it, nice. Chit-chatted. And then we're like, okay, I guess we're going to go hunt, So me and Matt left, and they went back to go take care of that deer.
Yeah.
And so we go up to where we were originally going to go, and it's tough getting around. Like, it's deep, and it's like, you can tell Matt's a little bit like, okay, we don't have anyone else with us.
Right.
Like, it's super deep, but he's just like, we're getting you an elk. Just like, and he's just being a trooper. He's just like,
Right.
Forget it, dude, I'm going. And he's just ripping in that Con-Am. And so we get up, and we try to make it up this one way, and it's like, dude, I'm like thinking, I didn't realize how capable side-by-sides are. They're very capable if you have like a nice, like he had nice tires, nice lift on it, like good ground clearance, and he's just ripping it. And we get up this one hill, and it's like, dude, it's like straight up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, there's a lot of snow, and like this looks dangerous. He's just like, whoa.
What have you ever said that, Jim?
Dude, I'm just thinking, that's crazy. I'd never do that in a truck.
Yeah.
But we're just like climbing up, and we get almost to the top, and we're just like, we're almost to the top. And if we make it up that, we could just, we're in.
You're good.
Oh, yeah. But we peter out, right at the top, like 20 yards from the top. We can't get past it. We're just like, man. So he has to back all the way back down, which is a long ways. And so we get down, we have to take another route in, which is longer and probably more snow drifts. And so Matt's a trooper about it, though. And he's just like, forget it. We're just going to do it because we got to get up there to where the elk are. I'm like, yeah, let's just go get the elk.
Yeah, I like hunting with you.
Yeah, I like hunting with Matt. He's like a go-getter. Like, let's go get it.
That's what we're here for.
Yep. And he wasn't wanting to quit just because there was a lot of snow, and it was, a risk of getting stuck. So we're men. We can handle it.
How much time does it say we got left?
So we...
Be in the top right corner, I think.
No, where those is blue. An hour and a minute.
Okay.
1 hour, 1 minute.
Yeah, I was going to say we've only maybe been going an hour-ish, close to it.
Well, we're good then.
Doug's going to have to cut this little section out.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's okay. He'll jump right back in. And when he jumps back in, a third person will just appear.
And then I'll disappear?
Yeah, and then Doug will disappear. It's going to be super weird.
Much, by the way. Just a lot.
All right, we're jumping back into the story here. Let me get my enthusiasm back up.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we go.
Matt's rallying.
Matt's rallying. We get down past the snow drifts, and we start scooching up the hill, and we come up, and there's like a little rise. And right as you get to that rise, it like opens up into a whole new bowl, and there's a bunch of timber. Chris knows where this is.
I know exactly where it says, dude.
This is, I didn't even tell that the part of the first stalk that got blown there. Totally forgot about that.
Really?
Yeah. Remember the first stalk that got blown?
Oh, yeah, in the same spot. Yeah.
Where I missed?
Yeah.
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 Anyways, we'll leave that part of the story out. But anyways, there was already elk spotted here multiple times on this trip, right?
Yeah. Good spot.
So we get up to the top, and we just crest up to the top of the hill, and we get up and we start glassing. And I'm looking exactly where we had just seen elk like the day or two prior. And I'm looking in, and I'm like, man, that looks super elky in there. It's too bad there's no elk. And I'm like, there's got to be elk in there. And I'm just looking, and Matt's glassing all around us. And I'm like, man, that stuff over there looks really like there should be some animals in there. And I keep just looking at it. For some reason, I was just hyper-focused on this one little patch. And it was like I materialized an elk in it, right? Like, I'm just like, I want there to be an elk there so bad
Right.
that I'm just like, there's got to be an elk in there.
Classic
There's
you, dude.
got to be. And then finally, I'm like, that kind of looks like an elk. And I'm like, all I can see is just a little tan patch. And I'm like, there's got to, maybe that's an elk. I don't know. And I'm like, Matt, I think I got an elk. And he's like, and he throws up his glass and he's like, I don't see what you're talking about. I think that's a rock. And I'm like, and I'm still looking at it like.
He told me the same thing, dude.
And I'm like, I think it's an elk. And all of a sudden I see its head turn just a little bit. Like I see a head move. And I'm like, it's an elk. It's an elk. Definitely an elk. And he's like, no way. You know, and I'm like, I swear it's an elk. And so he's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, we had just had a stalk that got completely blown to shit, by the way.
Right.
That I tried in almost the exact same spot, maybe 100-yard difference.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no, I don't want to go that way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, so maybe we'll skirt out and come down this ridge, and we'll get, like, if we get to the end of that ridge, across it should be about 400 or 500 yards, maybe. And I'm maybe less. I don't know. He's like, all right, what do you want to do? I'm like, let's just go from here. He's like, you don't want to drive down closer? I'm like, no, we can't we're not driving. Because at that point, it was 1,000 yards, I think, from there. And I'm like, and I wanted to close the gap. You know, Matt would just be like, I'm just going to shoot from here.
Matt and I would have shot right there.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
But he didn't tell you this. I talked to Matt about this, and Matt goes, James says he sees an elk. And I look, and there's nothing there. And he goes, no, it's right there. And he looks, and Matt's like, yeah, I look, and there's a rock. And he's like, no, it's an elk. And I'm like, is this guy? No, this guy's like slow. What's the deal? There's no elk over there. I'm looking exactly what he's saying. He's like, there's not an elk. And then he goes, it's definitely an elk. And he's like, I guess I'll just go with this guy, and then we're just going to go look at this rock, you know? And he's like, I looked exactly where he was saying, and he's got like the eyes of an eagle, and he materializes, like you're saying, you just make it an elk.
I'm like, it is an elk.
Right?
I just cast some spell. I was like, Askilioso, and there's all of a sudden an elk appeared, right? So anyways, we start going, and we're post-holing the whole way. Like, we're up to knee deep. And I can tell Matt, I'm like, because I made Matt go with me. I'm like, you're coming with me. And he's like, okay, I'm coming with. Like, let's go. So we start skirting down, and he's like, I think we should get up to this point over here. I'm like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Because you could tell, like, there were some big rocks that were, like, kind of flat. And I was like, those could be a good shooting platform. And so we get out to the end, and we have this one little tree that's like a jack pine. One tree on that entire mountain. And we put ourselves between that and the elk and use that one tree in our line of sight the whole way to close about another 200 yards. And it worked out beautifully because we get over there, and I'm like, okay, we're good. Like, now we can just skirt to the left a little bit, 10 yards, set up, and then shoot, hopefully. So we do that. We go over and we get set up, and I look, and I can't find the elk anywhere. And I'm like, oh man! I'm like,
It was
I know.
a rock.
and I'm like thinking to myself, no, that's not happening. Nope, that elk is laying there. Because I learned a couple days prior when I stalked a herd there, when they lay down in that shit, they completely disappear minus their ears. That's pretty much it. Because the snow is, you know, waist deep, almost in some areas, knee deep. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep looking. I'm like, I'm just looking. And then finally I see what looks like here, like a head and two ears. And it's looking kind of like off to the side a little bit. I'm like, I got it. And Matt's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, right there. Dead tree. Go all the way down to the base, 2 feet to the left. You'll see something that looks like an ear. And he's like, okay. And he's like, it takes him a while, but he's like, oh, I see it. I see it.
Yeah, the green tree in the snow.
Yeah.
On the hill, in the
Yeah.
mountain.
And so he's like, okay. He's like, what now? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, we range it. It's like close to 400. It's like 393 or something. And I'm like, that's pretty good. Like we closed the gap big time. And I'm like, now we have to figure out how to shoot this thing because it's laying in a bunch of aspens, like little baby aspens.
Right.
They're just like growing up all around it,
Right.
And so there's brush, and I shoot those burgers.
Yeah.
So I can't
hit
shoot
anything.
through
Yeah.
any brush, and I'm screwed.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to explain this to Matt, and he's like, I just shoot my bullets right into its eyeball. I'm like, I
was
can't
gonna
do
say,
that.
I would just shoot it right in the
He
face.
was a couple of times. He's like, I could just shoot it right through the eyeball. I'm like, I can't do that. Okay, I don't know how to tell you guys. this.
He could too, dude. He's so good.
Dude, he's a great shot.
He's so good.
And so I'm just like, okay, here's the deal. We'll just wait for it to stand up. I'm like, that's what they do on TV, right? They always wait for it to stand up. And so we're laying there, and I'm in knee-deep snow, so I'm up to here, and I had this one rock that was like a big flat rock, and I'm laying prone on it, and I'm like up to my neck in snow, and I got my little bipod set up. I'm perfectly set up. I got my backpack as an elbow, like I got my elbow dug into it. I'm like rock solid, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and it's cold. It's like the sun's out, but it's still cold, and you're laying in snow. So no matter how many clothes you have on, if you're laying in snow, eventually it's going to catch up to you. And I'm like, I start getting a little cold, and I can tell Matt's probably going to start getting cold too. And I'm like, we're not going to be able to lay here all day. I'm like, this is just dumb.
And to preface the cold, I don't know if you mentioned this in the last episode, but you had forgot all of your warm or your cold weather gear. You have no cold weather gear
None.
with you.
So
all of your hunting clothes are basically gone.
I have nothing, right? So I show up to
Ron's clothes.
Yeah, so Papa Ron, who is also a very large man like Chris, left a bunch of his clothes for me.
Yeah.
Like he left some bibs and a jacket for me, and I had a bunch of stuff, so I like layered up underneath. And I crossed over, I had to like tie the knots and the bibs, and like,
dude,
they worked out, but I looked like I was like MC Hammer in his clothes.
Oh, dude.
But it was like after, I think I tried to one day do it with my stuff that I had, which was all like warm weather clothing.
Oh, dude.
I was like, it wasn't going to happen, dude. I wasn't going to be able to stay out in the weather. So I was like, forget it. I'm going MC Hammer. Thanks, Papa Ron.
If you had our stuff, or what was the series of that? The Numa stuff?
Oh, the Numa?
Torrent.
The Torrent
Dude,
series.
the bibs and the coat Doug and I got.
Yeah.
Dude.
You and Doug didn't even get out of those things in the late season.
I wore
Chris
mine.
wore his the entire time.
Literally. I wore mine.
I've been wearing mine since friggin' October.
Yeah, yesterday or the day before when I was bow hunting on the island. I wore that too.
Gosh, those are nice.
It's so nice. Sorry. But
You don't want to walk in it if it's above freezing.
well,
because-
it's got the zippers on the sides. Right?
True. I'm just saying, like, if it's above freezing and you're doing a little bit of walking around in that shit,
Hiking
you're
in
gonna
cold.
get hot real fast.
Yeah, anything over 30.
Dude, it has a zipper down and everything.
Yeah.
We're going to do a review on that. But back to you freezing
Okay.
in your non-torrent Numa gear.
Yeah, in my Papa Ron.
Yeah.
Thank you, Papa Ron, by the way.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, sorry about all the blood on him. Didn't mean to. Hopefully, Chris washed him before he gave him back to you. I'm sure he didn't.
I did.
Okay.
I did. And washed and folded. Yeah.
Good. So I'm laying there and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like running through scenarios. I'm like, okay, we're not laying here all day. We're going to freeze to death. I'm like, we're going to need this elk to stand up. We're going to need to take a step or two. I'm like, how are we going to do that without blowing it out?
Meh.
Yeah. Dude, Matt will tell you this is probably when we have him on, he'll be like, this is just hilarious. He was like fighting back, laughing the whole time. So first I go, okay, Matt, I'm going to get this stupid thing to stand up. And he's like, how are you going to do that? I'm like, I don't know. Just listen. I'll make some sounds. He's like, okay. And so I'm on the gun, right? And so I'm trying to get this thing to stand up. So I started out with a
Oh.
like an elk bugle.
Oh, almost like a Yanni Patelis
Yeah.
far off.
Dude, I do that like 15 times. The thing doesn't even move.
Really?
I do it like at least 15 times. Then I started going like as loud as I can. Nothing. And then I'm like, gosh, dang it.
Is it windy?
No, it's dead
Dude,
calm.
because sound carries like crazy on
Oh no,
the snow.
it's got to be hearing it.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, I started doing that. The thing just doesn't move. Then I started getting more creative. Then I'm doing it for a while until I'm like, my lungs are starting to like, I'm like, and I have to take a few breaths because I need to be ready to shoot. And so I'm like, Matt's like kind of like giggling over there. And I'm like, and then I started getting more creative. I'm like, start making horse sounds for a long time. And I can see that caught its attention a little bit. It started perking up its ears and then acting like it was like almost going to get up. And I was like, okay, I think it's going to happen.
You should
it's
have
gonna
just
happen.
yelled at it. You should have just jumped up and, get up, you stupid elk!
Oh, I was one step away from just being like, hey! And just yelling. And so I do that. And I think the last one was like a super loud horse sound. I was like, and then the thing just like gets to its feet. And I'm like, okay, now I have a little bit more clearing. It hasn't taken a step, but it's above a lot of the brush line. I'm like, and I'm trying to pick a patch in through there. And I'm like, okay, I think I got a good gap here. And I'm like, all right, it's time to just let it fly.
Let it rip, Titter.
And I think I I didn't even look over at Matt. I just said, okay, or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I told him really. I just said like, okay. And then, and I could hear a smack, right? And the elk runs down and then runs about, 30 yards and then piles up. And I was like, hell yeah. And Matt's like, yes, we did it. Like, and then he's like, I'm going to go back to the side-by-side now, and I'm going to drive around to the other side so we don't have to pack it so far. And so I'm like, okay. So I'll go down and I'll hike down to the bottom and then get up to there and I'll start taking care of it.
You went down that deep cut?
Yeah. So I went down because we were up on the other knob
right
across from it.
Right.
And there was a big ravine in between.
It's a pretty big, steep ravine.
Yeah. So I had to drop up. I didn't drop all the way down and then back up. I went down around and did like a horseshoe and then made it over there. And it wasn't too bad. It was just going up that one side kind of sucked.
Yeah.
But post holing the whole way. And until you walk, even though you see it fall, until you walk up on it, you're like, is it really dead? You know? And I walk up there and it was dead right where it fell. And I was like, sweet. It's like I killed a buck and an elk in less than a 24-hour span. I was super jacked.
And it was a gigantic cow.
Big old cow, yeah.
Dude.
I wasn't going to be picky. I was like, I just want to fill my freezer.
Well, who called us? Was it Matt or you? I don't remember. But
it was probably Matt.
Yeah, we got the message like, hey, elk down, come help, come pack meat. I'm like, all right. It's a pretty good jaunt to get there, you know? Mm-hmm. And so by the time we got up there and I'm looking, luckily Ed had his side-by-side. So Matt has a big Can-Am Defender that's jacked up. He's got like, I don't know how big his tires are, huge tires.
Yeah.
On it.
He can get around easy.
Ed has like a brand new Polaris, like Expedition 4-door, all the doohickeys. So his company,
those are nice.
Upriser Arms and Big Rock Industries builds all these like accoutrements for the side-by-side, right? So he's got this giant fancy roof system rack and these cages and doohickeys and lights and dude, the thing looks incredible. Like it's like a SEMA
fully built, right?
It's 100% a SEMA build, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, yeah, we'll just take mine. I'm like, well, obviously we're not taking mine. 'Cause it's not going to, I got like 6-inch tires on my rig. And so we hop in as and we go up the hill and we're going, and you got to go down this steep thing and up to this kind of side hills. It's a long ways, dude.
Yeah.
And we finally get up there and we're trying to figure, he's like, oh, go up, around the corner. And so we go farther up and and then we start walking in and like James was saying, the snow was deep, dude, deep. And so we're walking in and I hear Ed walking by. He's like, and I'm like, we're almost there, buddy. You're doing great. Like just wait till you put 100 pounds on your back.
Back there cursing at you.
Oh, dude.
He did pretty good getting out of there.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah. Because he came down and I think we maybe gave him the lighter load, but
yeah. But we had 4 guys. We had James and Matt and Ed and myself, and we packed that elk out in one shot.
Yep.
But it was a big elk. Like it was all of, like a bull size elk. I mean, it was a gigantic cow. Like the hindquarters were huge.
She was good at hiding in those aspens until she wasn't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just need 3 deep feet of snow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude. That was pretty awesome, though. Yeah, I mean, like, this guy freaking shows up and just hammers, bang, bang, and he's like, all right, well, this wasn't very hard.
Now you're going to have to not go back to Montana because you're probably going to not see shit.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude.
probably not. Probably won't have a very good trip on the next one. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of game around there.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was,
If we can get Montana tags this year, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long shot because we drew last year.
Speaking of tags, coming into tag season.
Yeah, let's switch gears here a little bit. Let's get talking about what we got going on this next year.
So Alaska's closed, Idaho's closed. Well, for
General
the
tags,
main.
yeah. There's still controlled hunts.
Man, they went fast. Holy hell.
Yeah.
This year's Idaho system was, oh my gosh. So Doug gets in. Doug actually gets a decent spot.
I got in ahead,
He was
not
like
knowing that I needed to
8,000,
have a little
right?
bit.
You were like 8,000, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's not too bad because I was 12.
No, I was 12. You were 15 or 18.
18,000. I was 18,000 in line.
Yeah, I was 12.
Doug was 12.
I was 53.
And I was like,
I'm sitting in an excavator, like trying to work, at the same time. I'm just like looking at my phone. I'm like, oh, I got to do some work and look at my phone.
Right.
well, and it's a good thing. It's kind of a good thing that it worked out the way it did because Doug gets in and Doug gets all the way through the process almost. And he gets into the thing and he hadn't built a login or something.
I didn't.
Or he
I
hadn't
didn't create
entered
an
in,
account.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I didn't have my hunter safety certificate to put in the number.
Oh, crap.
So I'm trying to go into
Because he had
my,
never bought Idaho tags before.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
So
I didn't even think about that.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
so I didn't-
and it's timing you, right?
Yo, so it's timing me. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm
the
30
30
at
minutes.
the same time, I'm like, well, I need to get my hunter certificate number so I can enter it in so I
Right.
can buy these tags.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to log into my, WDFW account,
Yeah.
and I can't get into it at all. At the
So
same
now
time.
you're getting screwed
So
on
now
two
I'm just
ends.
getting screwed on both ends because I can't buy Idaho tags because I don't have an account with all of the information for my hunting certificate. And
You
then I'm
can't
getting
get
in. I
your-
can't get into my Washington one because that's where it might be because I'm at work. I don't have my hunter certificate on me.
All this while he's sitting in a machine.
Yeah,
Like
I'm at work.
like, duh!
I'm digging holes over here, and I'm like, I need to buy tags.
Yeah, and I'm on the phone with Doug, and I'm like trying to explain. I'm like, oh, try this, do this, and then all of a sudden, like the line moves super fast,
Yeah, and then all of a sudden,
and then I'm
James is
like,
I'm
I
up.
gotta go, I'm in, and so I'm like, okay, and I get in, and my tag that I wanted was like, it was still available, but I had watched a couple units close by sell out already, and I'm like,
Right.
dude, it's gonna sell out any second, and so I'm like, hurry up, and I'm like, I get stuck on some stupid thing. It was like, I was trying to like,
You had to report. Like
it wanted me to first. It wanted me to report last year's harvest, which we had just gone on,
Right.
and so I hadn't even thought about it. But I didn't have to do that. And so I start to do that. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, no, there's another spot to log in right here. So I do
Right.
that. By the time I get in, I go straight to the whitetail tags because that's what I want.
Right.
They're sold out. And I'm like, okay, what's my number 2? Sold out. What's my number 3? Sold out. What's my number 4? Sold out. And I'm like, forget it. There's only one tag left
Yeah.
in any remotely close area.
Yeah.
And it's in a unit that I do not want to hunt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I guess Idaho's gone this
Yeah,
year.
and you were what, like 53,000?
Yeah, Chris was sick and he didn't wake up in time and
Yeah.
he logged
Dude,
in
I
kind of
was-
late.
I was sick as a dog, dude. I went to bed at 6:00 the previous night,
Yeah.
like asleep at 6. I'm like, God, I don't feel good. What's going on with me? And my wife was taking care of the kiddo, so I'm like, it gave me free reign to just like, oh, I'm just gonna go lay down. And I remember I laid down. And it was like 5 something, and I remember like laying there, and it was like right before 6. And I closed my eyes. I remember waking up and I look, and it was 9:32, and I'm like, holy shit, 9:32 a.m. the next day, and I'm like, oh my God, Idaho tags, like that's the first thing I think. I'm like, shit. So I go,
Idaho tags.
You got like 30 missed text messages from
Oh,
me and
dude.
Jim
Because I'm
going
like,
back and
Chris,
forth
what's
in the
going
morning.
on? 'Cause me
Literally.
and Doug are talking about, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I think I had like 32 text messages, and I'm like, "Oh my god, what am I doing?" And I get on there, and I'm 53,000. I'm like,
Forget.
"Oh, what are you doing, dude?"
We're
Yeah,
done.
so we totally dropped the ball this year on trying to get Idaho tags.
Yeah. Well,
But-
it's a good thing because if you had got an Idaho tag, then you would have been alone
Yeah,
because me and Chris weren't getting tags.
yeah.
So then it would have been me
So I guess
just
it
playing
worked
guide for
out.
you, which would have worked out really good for you.
I feel like
With your track record, Jim.
Yeah.
we got a good chance this year, though, for Washington.
Yeah.
You know,
For one of us drawing something.
I think so.
Decent,
If
hopefully.
it's now to
I can tell you one thing: if I would have been able to hunt in a different unit the time I went over for late season,
yeah,
100% I would have killed something.
really.
Yes.
God, dude.
I for some reason every year where James's cabin is,
Yeah,
I have the absolute worst luck in timing.
really.
Yes.
It's either too early or too late,
Yep.
or
It's
in this
usually
case, it was
1 week or 1 weekend, too early or too late.
trying
Really?
to hit the right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know,
And
Maybe
this
next
year it was really warm. There was no snow on the ground.
it's been
Around
like
Thanksgiving.
that randomly, though. Like, the last couple of winters have not been that great. Like, you can drive up to the cabin most times of the, like, throughout the winter, which
Yeah.
usually you should, like, there should be
I don't
snow
know. The
there,
last couple of times I've been up there in the late season, there's been like a foot of snow.
Really.
which would be perfect for late season hunting.
Yeah.
But when there's no snow and it's warm and it's not even barely freezing.
It wasn't even it snowed like one day, and I was like, "Oh, today's the day!" Right? You know, I sent you those pictures and those videos. Where it was just like dumping snow, and it's finally getting cold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "It's gonna turn around right here. It's gonna dump snow. It's gonna stop. The deer are gonna start moving around."
Mm-hmm.
Never happened.
It's been a warm winter.
Super warm weather.
yeah,
super
a
warm.
lot of rain here.
Yeah, December has been like, especially for trying to hunt blacktail, it's been horrible.
Yeah, tell me about it.
We need
Doug.
that. We need that cold, freezing weather in
Yeah.
December for it to really work out. Because
Yeah.
they just
Yeah,
they don't
then
want to
start-
eat.
They start burning those calories when it's really cold.
Yeah, and then
They
they're
want to
eating
eat
all the
like
time.
that fatty food,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't hunt them when they're not burning calories.
No,
So
no, they're just not moving.
hmm
So we got the Washington draws we're putting in. Obviously, we're putting in. None of us have been drawn for an oil tag, so we're all putting in for moose goat
those.
sheep, right?
Yep. Quality bull.
Quality bull, quality deer.
hmm
I think we're all high teens or 20s. I would think.
I'll be 21 or 22 for quality deer this
Yeah.
year finally. And I'm not putting in for tags that are impossible to draw either, which is
No.
crazy.
Which we can say stuff on this because like everyone knows like the most sought after tag in Washington number wise is Eniat. And I'm like, I'm just not gonna put in for that anymore. It's a great unit. It really is. It's weather dependent.
Yeah.
It's very weather dependent.
Yeah, if there's no snow to
If
push it
there's
down
no
in there.
snow,
Yep.
that's where the migration comes through. It'd be great. There's big bucks there, but I'm like, I'm never gonna get drawn there.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I'm gonna put in. I got a couple of ideas.
I got some ideas for you.
I
too.
got some ideas, and but man, I just
One
wanna,
of us is getting a tag this year if
before
we can get off the blacklist.
before Bob Ferguson completely shuts down hunting with his brigade of commissioners
Nonsense.
he has,
Yeah.
dude.
We're already on the no-fly list. I
Oh,
think.
big! I know.
If there is a no-fly list, I'm definitely on it.
The reason Doug didn't get his WDFW number is because Lorna was over there hitting the block button every time he logged in. She's like, I see Doug's trying to log on. Guess what? Click. Nope.
Even though we're trying to hunt out of state,
Dude.
Yeah.
little weasels
Dude.
trying to ruin it for everybody.
Bob Ferguson sitting there in his whitey tighties in the dark.
Yeah. Like Mr. Burns, dude.
Yeah,
Can you see him like
exactly.
Mr. Burns
Oh,
with his
100%.
fingers? Like,
Yeah,
dude, that guy.
he's a whitey
So
tighty guy.
He's
before
gonna
we
ruin
so
Washington.
before we forget, Jim, let's talk a little bit about what people have messaged us.
So
about
yeah, we're
for-
going
for
into
topics.
we're going into the new year here, and I sent out something yesterday. I think
Put out a feeler.
Yeah, feeler, just to see like what are some topics that people wanted to hear, covered in 2025. And we're going to try to do some different stuff coming up. We're going to try to get more guests on. we're going to try to get more experts in the topics that we're talking about to come on.
I'll try and not be sick so we can be more consistent. I was sick the last 2 weeks. That's my bad. Sorry, guys.
And so there's a lot of cool things that we could talk about, but
it's all good. I think we all fought it this winter.
Yeah, we've been struggling.
I had the crud, shit while you guys were gone.
We're gonna be better from now on.
Thanks for your patience, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna get more podcasts out.
It always seems to happen though when it comes to the hunting season. Stuff just doesn't really get done.
Well, I mean, it's just a busy time of year for us, hunting a lot, and then there's like
the holidays.
There's the holidays and all the family stuff going on, our kids' birthdays, and
I don't like doing podcasts without
and
you guys. Like we talked about it when I go to Montana. I was like, "Do you want me to do a podcast there?" And you're like,
because you know what?
Yeah.
Like we could all do one person could do a podcast, but that's not going to be very fun.
Yeah.
Who wants to listen to one guy?
I'm not that entertaining.
I'm not that entertaining. But as a whole, we're apparently hilarious.
A couple cocktails.
Yeah.
A couple Coors Lights.
Yeah. We got at least 100 people that follow every podcast, you know.
Thanks to those 100 people.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And gals.
You guys all matter.
Yeah, exactly. I like getting those messages from people like, you make my day better. I'm like, you know what? If I don't do anything else in life, at least I'm trying to brighten someone's day.
That podcast where we talked about Hatari, right? And we told people to comment Hatari.
Did anyone actually comment Hatari?
Someone commented Atari.
Atari. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, I guess that counts. That's kind of close.
You're like, the giveaway's over now. But
yeah.
Nintendo 64, bro.
You forgot one letter there, bud.
Yeah. Close enough. So, a couple of the topics that people said they'd like to hear. We'll just do a handful of them.
Okay.
The importance of predator management.
We preach that all the time.
We preach it, but I don't know if we necessarily talk about the importance and maybe like the in-depth reasoning behind it. We could do better at that.
So James and I were just in my fixed ground blind, not my mobile ground.
Yeah, I showed up to do podcasts, and the guys were nowhere to be found. I mean, Chris's gun room was open. I mean, we had pepperoni sticks out on the counter.
Yeah.
The drinks are out. I'm like, where the hell are these guys? Go up to the gun room or the gun shop. And
I was trying to kill a coyote because
predator management,
and I own some acreage here, but I have a very unique location to where there's a lot of animals around me, right? And the predator population around here, bobcats, coyotes, cougars, black bears, is insane. Mm-hmm. Absolutely crazy.
That's why you don't have any deer.
And why is that? Because you have livestock.
There's a lot of livestock around here, yeah.
You know,
sheep and
it's
birds.
So I have failed miserably. I haven't even killed the coyote that ate my mother-in-law's cat yet.
Well, we're gonna get him.
Yeah, so
he's gonna die.
We need to do better.
After the new year, we're gonna hammer some coyotes. We need to.
Yeah,
we've always been saying that we need to do it. We just need to do it.
I feel like Doug and James and myself all understand the reasoning behind it, and we all have good intentions, but we get like Doug's at work and he's trying to get tags and while he's on a machine, and I'm driving and I'm like swerving lanes trying to get a ticket, while I'm on my phone trying to do something and
trying to sell a house.
Yeah, and James is doing the same exact thing. So we do understand. We hope more people do it, but we need to be better. We need to kill more coyotes. We need to kill more bobcats. We need to kill more cougars. We need to kill more bears, because if we don't, that's why my deer season is shit this year here, because I don't have any deer because they ate all the deer. I had 4 cougars this spring.
Yeah, you got no fawns around here, dude.
Yeah, there's literally no fawns.
Yeah, why do you think there's no fawns? Because there's too many predators. That's just, we'll do a very in-depth podcast about the importance of predators.
And you can tell when there's a lot of predators around, the ungulates and deer, and they disappear.
Just look at the young. That's like a telltale.
Yeah,
I think we talked about it on that elk hunt that we went on, how all the tracks that we found, none of them, those elk had calves with them. None of them. And usually
we found tracks that were the day before with wolf tracks right behind it.
Yep. I mean, the wolves blew out our number one spot that we were going to on opening day.
Yeah.
So
we got about 5 miles in, and we're like, well, this spot's
well, good thing we
out.
hiked in here just to find these wolf tracks chasing these elk we were going to shoot today.
We're like, oh, let's see where these elk tracks go. Well, there's wolf tracks right behind them.
Yep.
Forget it.
And then it's like wolf tracks, and then it's like, oh, the elk are running now because there's like the dirt's all kicked up, and they're like, you can tell they're running.
Spread apart.
And if you were in Montana, that'd be great because you could go shoot the wolves because you can buy like 5 wolf tags. But
can't do that here
in Washington.
So that was one of the topics that someone would like to see.
That's a great one.
I think that was Josh Capel. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Josh.
Yeah, Josh is a good guy. We've
dude.
had him on the podcast. You should listen to it about calling predators.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah. How do we build a national hunting organization that will help fight the antis?
Ooh.
And my response back to this person was that we have been working closely
we
with
need Bill Gates money.
Yeah, that's what we really need. But we've been working pretty closely with Sportsman Alliance and Blood Origins as well. Trying to Blood Origins is more getting awareness about the meaning of hunting and what hunting benefits are to the general public. Sportsman Alliance is more of the boots on the ground, light lawyer fighting lawsuit guys that are going to fight for your actual hunting rights.
Yeah, they're the ones actually getting the work done.
So as far as like making an organization, I don't think that we'll talk about much of making an organization. I think there's organizations already in place they could just be built on.
100% agree.
And that's kind of where I believe that will go. But we could
More
definitely
organizations
get more in depth.
isn't exactly going to help the situation.
A new organization, I don't think is going to help off of when there's already organizations that are already in place that are doing that.
In the midst of doing it.
I think that those organizations just need more help.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Yeah.
More money, more legal
Unfortunately,
teams.
money is the
money
key
makes the
in
world
this-
go round,
yeah.
right?
I feel like
you want to play the legal game. It
Yeah.
costs a lot of money.
there's 3 that right off the top that come to mind. Howl, Blood Origins, and then Bear Country we had the big fundraiser this last year, and we had a great lawsuit against Lorna Smith.
Don't forget SCI.
I'm going to touch on those.
Yeah.
But the lawsuit that we had, we won. Bob Ferguson appealed the decision, used Washington State taxpayer money to push back, wasted that money because he lost again because he's a loser, and he's a terrible human being. But that's neither here nor there. But the company that we supported I feel like shares our vision, right? Like they want to support hunters, they want to support our heritage, they want to support just outdoor sports in general. And there's some larger organizations that don't necessarily do that, right? So
a lot of them do like a lot of lip service,
lots of lip service,
but they don't necessarily get their knuckles bloody in the fight, right?
It's like talking to a politician. It's like when you ask them a question, it's a yes or no question, and then you get this big verbal soup of nonsense, and they never answered the question, right? So I feel like Sportsman's Alliance is like they're the old school, like
they're getting their knuckles bloody.
Yeah, I miss the days when I used to be able to handle things with my hands, right?
Yeah.
If we had a problem with somebody, like me and you would scrap it out,
Have a scrap.
And now, have a scrap. It was good. That's how you did things.
They used to also ride horses and carriages back then.
Yeah. Well, I'm not that old, but pretty close. Pretty close. But
I'm just throwing shade.
sports is like I punched a lot of people in the face, James.
Yeah. Amen to that.
I'm old now though, and I know how much teeth cost, so I'm not doing that anymore. Sportsman's Alliance doing a fantastic job. I love Robbie. Let's be honest, he's just a stunning human being.
Talking about Blood Origins.
Blood Origins, yeah.
We were just on a call with him today talking about fundraisers.
I don't personally know what's the guy from Hal?
Gosh.
I don't know him personally. I feel like he does a good job.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we sat down, if I had the opportunity, I'm sure he'd be a great human being. I feel like he does a lot. We, as a company, support a ton of local organizations. We go to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation banquet. We spend a shit ton of money. We go to Safari Club International banquet. We spend a shit ton of money. We go to the Washington Sheep Show. We spend a shit ton of money. And the reason we do that is because we have the hopes of that money going into these organizations and helping our hunting heritage and backing our rights. So we, as an organization, do this for Washington and for everyone, the 100 people that are listening. We do that for you guys. I mean, we really do. Like, we spend a bunch of money, and that's what it really comes down to, is because you can't sue someone on, like, you know, hopes and dreams. Like, if you've ever been in your uncle's boat out fishing on the Sound, and he has a sticker, which my uncle does on his boat. The reason I say is my Uncle John has a sticker or a big plaque on his boat that says, "This boat runs on gas, not on thanks." You know, so that's a cold hard fact. Lawsuits run on money, you know, and we're only gonna. Anti-hunters have a bunch of money. They have a bunch of lawsuits, and we need money and we need lawsuits. That's all it boils down to.
Yep. So there's definitely there's organizations that could be built on that are already those organizations fighting the antis.
Yeah,
they just need, honestly, just more support, or I don't know, more involvement.
Yeah,
more involvement and more money and more support. That's just the bottom line.
And we do have some stuff coming out for that, which we won't mention yet, but it's going to be big and it's going to be helpful. So,
well, and then we got one more that we'll do here, and then we'll probably wrap it up because we are towards the end here.
Yeah.
We should do a sheep one. I'm like, you know what? We haven't really dove into oil tags or, like, you know, sheep management in the state of Washington. And that is a big topic right now because I know that there's a lot of herds that are on the decline. There's a lot of controversy around some of the tag allocations and all that. And it would be cool to get someone who's an expert. So we're going to try to do that. Get an expert on to talk about the sheep and maybe some of the goat tags and sheep tags and stuff like that. So, yeah, we can talk more about.
Yeah, because not a lot of people get to hear a lot about that.
No, I mean, there's a lot of people that are interested. I mean, everyone spends money to put in for it.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to maybe get some information about it.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, we'll do a sheep one for sure. But yeah, I don't know, Doug. What do you think? Bring us home.
I think this has been quite the podcast for the last one for the year.
Yeah.
Finally, the New Year's coming up, and we're looking forward to the next season and what we're going to do. And we're still spinning the yarn on what we're thinking about doing.
Yep. Well, we're going to see how this all folds out with tags, too.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of crazy stuff going on. So
I think we're all pretty thankful, though. Like, thankful to be here. Yeah. Thankful for everyone that's listening and has contributed and taken part in what we want to accomplish in this state. So it's been a pretty good ride. I'm looking forward to 2025.
I think 2025 is going to be epic.
I think so too.
Sounds good. Well, until next time, guys, stay humble and hunt hard.